seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. I've never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
It's the T.N.F. I never know how loud I'm going to do that, and I just go impulsively, yes, and see what volume, see what racket comes out of me. How are we all doing? It's the Thursday night forum, the night you guys take the keys off me and drive the bus for us. And I'm joined by a stellar team tonight. Phil McGinley must be sick of the sight of me, but he's here with us again. It's brilliant to have you on, Phil. And the Judge Kearney has joined us fresh out of the courtroom after hosting Judgment Day 5 earlier on, and there's another world exclusive in that. That's all I'm saying right now. I don't want to go any further than that. This has been a month of exclusives on the bus, and there's still a big one to go, by the way. That teaser, I'm going to tease folk about this for the next month or two. You just not believe what's coming. Phil McGinley, how the devil are you, my man?
I'm absolutely great, mate. I'm all ready to go, ready for another action-packed T.N.F, mate. Always up for it.
Good. I love hearing that. Just love hearing folk up for it. Judge, straight out the courtroom, into the forum. How you feeling, big man?
I'm doing very well, mate. Had a brilliant wee episode of Judgment Day there. Not bad for us. Shambolic lot. According to 4 fucking Muppets for Australia. But other than that, mate, I'm doing very well, mate. I've crawled out off my couch. They've crawled out their ma's beds. Everything's going good for me, mate. How about yourself? Are you all right?
Oh, I'm jamming, mate. I'm jamming. I was just recovering from being called a shambles, you know.
That's my daily life, to be honest with you. I get called out every day in work. But hey,
That's it, mate. That's it. This shambles will carry on. The bus will drive on. There's 98 live already. Inside 5 minutes, lad. That is... Wow, we are doing well here. So, in fact, over 100 now. So, the perfect time as we hit the 100 mark. Do all that good stuff. All that good stuff means hit the subscribe button if you've not already. What are you waiting on? Gosh, you know. If you want to like the video, it gets all that traction and all that on YouTube. Helps the algorithm, I am told. So, let's do a wee bit of that as well if you can. If you want to share it on your socials, by all means, feel free. That's even better. And also, if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like Tattoo Face, who I know has been kindly donating already before the show even kicked off. A big thank you to you, mate. And thanks, I love the top as well. It's about 10 years old now, but I can't let it go. I love it. Brown Warrior, he's a Bhoycie Bus member as well, as is Celts on the Hill. Stephen Murdoch. Who else is there? There's usually loads in the chat. Kevin 14, he bought a shirt today.
Yes.
And now all that good stuff's done, we need to talk about piesports.com.
Yeah.
Piesports.com. I was in touch with them.
That side, I don't know.
That side, Phil. That side.
There we go.
Aye, mate, aye. It's like the weather, isn't it? Here in Glasgow, it's got to be pissing the rain.
Yeah.
It's got to be sunny. You need to learn how to do that, mate. I'll teach you.
It always confused me that I'm looking in the screen. I'm like, that side? What side? You know, trying to work it out. But yes, it is up there in the corner.
Yes, and piesports.com. I'm buffering quite bad here.
No, mate. No.
Oh, am I not? All right,
No.
used to. I thought, fair enough.
I've got my box coming tomorrow. I've got steak, haggis, and peppercorn sauce pies. I've got doner pies. I got the curry pies. We tried them ones, boys. Are they any good? Mr. Singh's curry pies or something.
I've not had one of them yet.
Well, I'll let you know how they are. I've got a wee box coming. I'm dying to try the doner pies. What's the doner ones like, boys?
Honestly, amazing. And that's the truth. Like, pleasantly surprised how Moorish they are. The doner kebab ones are a joke. They've got that nice kebab sauce in the middle. I know you make your own, Mark, but these are it's just a perfect combo. Whoever came up with that concept is a genius.
Don't forget, if you put in Bus 1888, you get 12.5% after your order. And I think if I'm right here, so you buy 6 pies, you'll get 1 for nothing. Is that right, Phil? You're the genius on this pod.
Maths has never been my strongest subject.
Yeah, okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put, if it's lies, I don't care. If Piers Morgan can say it, I can say it. So you buy 6, you basically get 1 for nothing, I think.
I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know how accurate that is, but it sounds good to me.
Okay, mate.
Comes in.
The judge is on the night. He's on it.
Yeah.
What a guy. Oh, super.
Right. David Lowe comes in and he says, evening folks, are all buzzing about the new shirt? And do you know what? He's right to bring up the new shirt because he is very proud to be the shirt sponsor. Hard Barber on the... Look at that. Oh, come on. We are taking this to another level, man. This bus is flying. Make sure you get your orders in before Sunday to get that extra £5 off as well. I'll put it better myself. Are you sure I'm not buffering at my end? Because it's really jumpy. That's mental. Anyway.
Yeah, you're not. No.
No, that sound. It must just be playing tricks on me. That's good. That's good to know. I'll just put up with all the buffering then. That's fine. Buffering. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into talking Celtic. So, if there is something burning that you really want to talk about, then get it in the comments. Let's discuss it. Mark, I've not had your thoughts on this yet. Me and Phil spoke about it at length. It's the obvious go-to question. Postecoglou heavily linked with Leeds. Instant sort of reaction to those sort of that story, which I think, to be honest with you, is already kind of disappearing a wee bit, isn't it?
And I think it's been poo-pooed. I think they've already been linked with another manager. They've approached somebody. We're going to have to get used to this, boys. So there's going to be 3 or 4 managers sacked every season in England, and that just starts a chain reaction. And I think sometimes it's the kind of go-to thing for our media in Scotland to link the successful Celtic manager with moves down south. It's just something they do to try and unsettle the Celtic fans, sell a few papers, but I don't see much merit in that story. I think if Leeds were sitting in the top half of the table fighting for Europe, they wouldn't have sacked their manager. But if they were sitting in the top half of the table fighting for Europe, would that job appeal Ange? Aye. Would it appeal him with this long left of the season? Would he kind of bring in his own players? No, I don't think it would. I think Ange has got a very unique style of play, Bhoycie, and that requires a very unique style of player, and you can't just walk into any group of players and just turn them into what you want. I think Celtic will keep a hold of this guy until the perfect job for him comes up, because we've seen it before, Phil, that managers go places because the money's right and they might feel like it's the time to move on, but they don't always make the right decisions. I think this guy might be a bit smarter than that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Nene saw, well, I don't think it was a secret that that Rodgers was going to go at the end of the season, but nobody saw him leaving in February.
Yeah.
I'd be a bit surprised if Ange went halfway through a season, but do you know what? I bet the fans over in Japan thought the same thing about Ange as well. You know what I mean? So you never know with football, but just now, I just can't see it. There's no jobs out there that Ange would jump into away for Celtic. I just can't see it just now.
No, me neither. I've got to be honest. I don't see this one happening, but I completely agree on the point of this is it now. This is what we need to get used to. But I said enough on that last night. Let's have a wee.
I found a wee point. I found one. I don't know if you saw this, Russell, but we can now favourite comments. Or did you ever notice that before?
I didn't notice it. I just never thought
it's very handy for the
TNF.
If a good comment goes by, to put a star on it to remember. I better come back to that. But yeah,
Phil, that's the sort of organisation level I'll just never have in life. But I do appreciate the feedback. I do, because it's good advice. I just that in practice ain't going to happen. But I'm glad you're doing it for me tonight.
No worries, mate.
So Kevin 14, and he bought a Bhoycie Bus football shirt the day. What a legend, man! And he's saying, "What the fuck is this about a Super League?" Phil, I don't know. I don't think it's a story that'll ever go away. I don't think it's something that's necessarily in the immediate future, but I think right now you'll see a lot of angst and a lot of anger about it down south, particular. But that's because it's going to upset the juggernaut that is the Premier League a wee bit. Yeah. And realistically, albeit the clubs involved or would potentially be involved in a Super League, or if it was a 40-team one, even the top clubs that would be involved in that, your Barcelona's, etc., Real Madrid, I mean, their beef is similar to Celtic's, I think, or when we discuss like the riches of the Premier League, I still think that albeit they've got massively inflated fees they can pay and stuff compared with us, I still think their viewpoint isn't all that far removed from ours. I do believe they're looking at that league going, how are we going to compete here? What's the crack? Because the TV revenue they make is so lopsided. I'm sure I've seen a stat, the January transfer window, Phil. January transfer window, England spent over £600 million, and the nearest one I think was Serie A or League One, and it was fucking 29 million euros or something combined. Right, so the gap's getting bigger. Now we need to get real on this. This is what I'm saying. Like I think you're going to be fed a narrative from the MSM, particularly down south. And maybe for the Scottish media as well, who'll just be like, oh, the ugly two sisters or whatever, and all that shit. But, let them go, and it's all the shite. But I actually think there's an argument to be said, whilst this English league seems to be pulling further and further away, that there's got to be a leveller at some point here in some sort of formation. And for whatever reason, the Champions League hasn't achieved that. And they're now thinking, I think, don't get me wrong, one of the reasons it wasn't so palatable was there was X amount of teams, 12, 14, something like that, which is going to fuck off, right? Do their own thing. No relegation, just make fortunes, right? And that's not sat well. But when they've revisited it now, and obviously they were like, how do we tweak this to make it more palatable, make it something that's more, going to be drawn to? That's why they've expanded this idea, this notion that they've got to 40 teams and have actual promotion, relegation and things. I think inevitably something has to come in to level the ever-increasing gap between clubs and English clubs. We're in a position right now, we've discussed this many a time on the bus, that Bournemouth, for example, have guys on over £100,000 a week. Now, with that upset Celtic fans who think we're a big club, how is it going to affect Real Madrid fans, things like that, who are going, Bournemouth, how are they folding that? Do you know what I mean? Yep. And I think there has to be some sort of leveller. I'm not saying this is the answer to everything, but what I will say is whether it's this formation of the Super League that goes ahead, or whether it's one in 2-3 years' time that's been tweaked, something will happen between too many clubs now singing for the same hymn sheet that the English Premier League spending is out of control.
Yeah, it's the thing. I've seen the tweet flashing up today, the news about it, where they've came back with this revised idea of being a pyramid system, having promotion, relegation, and again, I've not got all the details on it, because would it run alongside the domestic leagues that still happen? Would it replace the Champions League. So obviously UEFA are only affiliated with this. We've got a change coming up to the Champions League in a couple of years as well. In fact, less than that now. It's a 24-25 season where it's going to be this 36 teams. You play 10 games and stuff like that. So that's all coming in as well. And it's just like, how's it all going to operate? It's not very clear. Do they want these if you get invited to it, do you have to leave your domestic league? I saw it today saying between 60 and 80 teams could be invited, and you would be playing 14 games a season. And I was like, well, that's got to be alongside your domestic league. You can't just play 14 games in 9 months. That'd be absolutely rubbish, man, compared to what we play now. We play 38 games in our league. So, but then it seems like they're just trying to do too much now. It's just too much football, essentially. We're getting to a point where there's too much going on. And it's like, I can't fathom it how they're going to go about it. I mean, ultimately, I don't think we'll ever be involved in it. I can't see it. I know there's a story that Celtic and them have been invited. Whether that's actually true or not, I don't know. If it's just some sort of pie in the sky story just to make us feel like we're involved, but I can't see it. I think if it's going to happen, it's still going to be the elite leagues, the top leagues, because ultimately they'll want the absolute best teams involved in it. And sadly, teams for like Scotland, Belgium, Holland, all these type of teams, they don't really appeal to these money men. But yeah, it just feels like it is just another, they're throwing something at the wall to try and get an inroad here because they get shot down so badly the last time. I think it's going to go the exact same way this time, where they're just not going to get anywhere with it.
Mark, I'll come at you on the Super League thing, and I want a different take. I want your take on it from a Celtic perspective, as opposed to me and Phil have kind of looked at it from the optics of what this actually will look like and how it would play out if they were to approach it. I want to put you in the position that Celtic receive that email, that phone call from whoever it is that's behind all this, whatever chairman it is that have got in a position of power regarding this, and they send something along the lines of what me and Phil are describing, a tier system where there's going to be 40, potentially 80 clubs involved. It's going to be a midweek format that's going to supplement your domestic football. It's going to be around 14 European games a season in a completely different format, and it would mean you withdrawing, obviously, from the Champions League, although Brian Warrior will definitely dive in saying we withdrew for that fucking in 2004. Do you know what I mean? But I want you to be in that position. What would your appetite be for something like that if you've got your Celtic head on and you've got to make the right decision for the future of the club?
Well, I think the party's always playing too loud music if you're not invited, Bhoycie. I think the reality kicks in if you get asked the question, look, there's a very serious opportunity for you to increase your revenue by 500-600%, increase the level of player that your fans can sit and enjoy at your stadium. And not only that, bring your club to a level where it should be at, playing teams like Ajax and Feyenoord and even some teams for Italy, like even your Milan's might be involved, but if it's a tier system, I doubt it. Celtic, we sit almost every summertime and discuss with our pals, etc., that Celtic are running against a brick wall trying to compete in the Champions League before we've even made the draw. Now, give us the money that these teams are getting and we will compete at any level. I mean, Celtic is a fact, mate. We're set up as a club that we could flick a switch tomorrow and get into the EPL, no bother. Our structure, our business is all set up that we could just get in tomorrow. If teams like Bournemouth can do it with 400 fans in a stadium at Hodge 26, we could do it with our structure. I think you talk about a board here. Don't forget, I said a few times, our second biggest shareholder is a umbrella company who expect returns on their money every season. So we're no a football club just built on. Well, we're not a football club just new operating to stay afloat. We're there to make money just now. That's the simple fact of the matter. So when your second biggest shareholder is got a big sway on how things are voted, they're absolutely going to be pushing for Celtic to increase revenue by 4 or 5 times what it is just now. As a fan's perspective, would I love to go on a Wednesday night and see Celtic in a some sort of Phoenix League that's got like say AC Milan and Ajax and playing teams like Borussia
Barcelona, Real
Dortmund.
Madrid and stuff.
Barcelona. If we're in a circle with them, I'd be even better. But I mean, come on. I mean, no disrespect to the teams that was in Scotland, because we still need to beat the teams that's in front of us. Now we've all put our jackets on a Wednesday night and went, oh fuck, it's Inverness Cali today, and you're like, oh fuck. See if that's Barcelona, see if that's Real Madrid, and you're playing it, and it's 3 points that you want to win. It's 1 point you need to win to get to a higher place in the table, get more finances. I mean, can you imagine the level of player that they'd be a level of player that we've never seen before, or maybe no since the Lisbon Lions come to Celtic Park. As a fan, I think there'd be a disgruntled section of the fan base who would think it goes against their principles. But see, when the reality kicked in, that match days are going to have 100 TV cameras there. It's going to be Sky Sports looking, loving Celtic and really, really spending a lot of money and promoting what we are doing. And then you get players running out the park, your Haalands up against guys like that, and Celtic bringing on guys on 100 grand a week who are maybe German internationals, Spanish internationals. I mean, if you're trying to sell that to a Celtic fan base, I've already bought in before you've even said one word. And I think, to be quite honest with you, I had this discussion last week on Judgment Day about levelling that stadium up. You can build 80,000 seats in that Celtic Park stadium, and that's in that stadium, sorry, and you sell them all out every single week if you're playing against a higher level opposition. And in my opinion, Celtic might be a club stationed in Scotland, but we're just so far above that, Bhoycie, and an opportunity like this, if it was a reality, if the email was sent, as you said, I think you'd be daft to say no. As I say, it's only the music's only too loud in the party if you're not invited. If Celtic are invited, the only answer they're going to give is yes.
Here's the thing. There's a real split in the comments section, which is good to see, because that means, and I like that. I think that means there's a debate to be had. Phil, one of the things that I liked for Kimchi Strider, I hope he's good.
Good name.
He's saying, I know, it is a good name. And he's saying, well, the Champions League's about to expand to a minimum 8 games a season already. Are we not better giving that a go first? Stubbs Hostel, he's seen enough. On a European level, it's no longer working for Celtic. We need to make that change or be perennial also rans. Well, one of the things I would say to Kimchi is, I get that, but they might just go for an extra 2 games, or the potential to go with some of Europe's biggest clubs that are going to get, from that English perspective, media and English, even BBC Scotland, they're run by, they're an English firm, all these companies, right? They are going to be conditioning you to think these clubs are all the biggest, baddest bastards on the planet. Imagine seeing it from all of their prism, all of their lens, looking at how that English league. I'll give you an example. Remember when, and I don't mean Aaron Moy here, remember when a lot of players went to China initially?
Yeah.
The death of the game. This isn't right. Do you not think when people see players joining Bournemouth instead of AC Milan and things, that's just as bad? And I know it looks like I'm picking on wee Bournemouth, but fuck it. If you're going to join Bournemouth over AC Milan, for example, that to me is just as money-driven a decision as going to China, the Chinese league. So that point in time, they didn't like it. Their nose when they would join, and suddenly sort of a lot of hatred towards that league, a lot of poo-pooing the idea. A lot of players have given up, they've retired, it's a retirement home, and that's all about money, and it's pathetic, and it'll kill football. But really saying it, with a brass neck, I felt at the time. And I just feel no one is taking into consideration, not just our view on how we view England, and we look at it and go, it's the promised land for a lot of players in Scotland because it's next door. We do far too much comparing, an impossible comparison when we look at our league and their league and think, oh, we can't compete with that. Well, of course we can't, right? But I wonder if there's clubs in Germany, Spain, Italy, France that look at England and go, hold on, is that not the country that just did Brexit and all that? Do you know what I mean? Like, how come they've got a league there that we're not on par with? We can't compete with. We're nowhere even close to. Something ain't right here, guys, because That doesn't add up. How big the disparity is now beginning to form. As I say, the second top league was something like 30 million quid in January, lads. England was over 600 million in first place. That's something that's going to get worse and worse. So these clubs need to find a way to circumvent that. And I do kind of see Stubbs's point. I think it's time for Celtic to try something fresh. There's only so long domestically we can complain about the jump for playing in Inverness, like Mark says, to then playing group stage football in the Champions League. There's only so long we can keep using that excuse. But if we want to vote for that, and that's the football we want to stay in, then take that argument off the table, okay? That one doesn't fit anymore because you've chose for that. If you think that currently, right now, there's a fair balance in European football, then by all means, don't be a part of something that changes it. But I think Celtic being involved in these discussions, for me, would be something I would be very open to having and finding out as much as you possibly could. I'm not as convinced as Mark would say yes. I've got a feeling that for some reason they'd find a reason that it would go against, something, and they didn't want to do it. And I think they're quite happy coasting as it is right now. And I think they would go for the guaranteed UEFA pound, which isn't a nice pound either, by the way. Let's get that right before we start worrying about morals and stuff. Fucking hell. But I think they would go for that guaranteed one, then take the punt. But what I would say is, when you look at the big boys involved in this Super League, Phil, this ain't no Satanta job. This ain't no Roger Mitchell talking about Atlantic leagues and all that shite at Copenhagen. This is a different beast from that, a different gravy, and something I think you would need to very much look into at the very least in great detail.
There'd be no harm in looking if a serious proposal was put on the table. There'd be no harm in them at least, looking at it and considering it. Don't say anything wrong. Obviously, there's a lot of, ifs, buts, and maybes and all these different things. We're talking about, obviously, pricing and stuff like that. So, funny enough, before we came on, Mark, you were saying something about, this Saturday we're playing St Mirren, Scottish Cup game, £25 general sale to go to a game at home against St Mirren. What price would they charge for a game against, say, AC Milan in this competition? And obviously we're going through the whole cost of living at the moment, and all these things would need to be looked at, considered, because as we found out down in England, with the way that they've went, the money goes up for all the teams are earning through TV and whatnot, better players coming in, the prices for the fans go up. One of the things that us Scottish fans always point out about the English Premier League is the tourist element. Regular fans, real fans, are getting priced out of games down there. Man City are one of the biggest culprits. Man City actually do have a big fan base, but the regular fan has been priced out at Manchester City, and nowadays a lot of their crowd is just filled with tourists who've come from halfway across the world to get a Premier League experience that day. And what's another thing that we've talked about as well that we want to try and get away from at Celtic Park on a Champions League night? Tourist element. We talked about the fierce atmosphere, and I think that as well could, a lot of fans around the world would be like, Celtic in this big Super League now. Oh, I need to go there and experience the atmosphere at the famous Celtic Park. Hear that you'll never walk alone as they come out onto the stage. Oh, it'll be amazing. So I think it would really water down the crowd. And at the moment, the crowd's getting eroded on the big European nights that we have. But if we were in a league full time against big boys every single week, oh man, I think it would really get watered down, and regular fans would start to get priced out, which would concern me a lot. I mean, it's already enough money to go and see just a general sale game. Season tickets are already quite expensive. Imagine if you had to buy a season ticket or a package thing for like going to see that league every week. Jesus, doesn't even bear thinking about.
It's a difficult square to circle that element of it, Mark, which is probably a slightly deeper realm than I had given it, much appraisal to. But what I would also say, though, on that form is that the product is something, as it goes up in cost, and if we want our club to invest more and spend more on players and wages, which we naturally would if they were competing in said competition, unfortunately, you would know as part of that there's going to be a ripple effect to what you pay. If you go to see a film that was recorded, down the Barras, right? It'd be a tenner. If you're going to go see, I don't know, a Leonardo DiCaprio new film or whatever that's at the cinema, you pay a couple of pound premium on it. That would happen. And I think we because the budget's far more. And I think with Celtic, if they were in that competition, you're probably right, Phil. It probably would bump up maybe there would be a compromise with the domestic games though, and you would still have your soul, because that would be the games that they would get, that would then become notorious for. That's for the real, say for example, Green Brigade are. Those games are far more lively in that European tin pot pish. But then we were having our cake and eating it a wee bit, which might actually not be a bad thing. You know, I think at the end of the day, football's shite the way it's changing, right? But at the end of the day, you can either be left behind and cling on to what's good about it and cry and bitch and moan about everything else that means you can't compete at that top table, or you sell a bit of your soul and you do what every other club will be considering that's been offered to do. Because right now, as I say, we're in a position where something's got to change. The current status quo, Mark, ain't going to last forever, and it ain't going to work.
No, because eventually the people that make decisions will look beyond the horizon. That's got to be a factor at Celtic. I mean, we're a massive monster in this wee league, and I think it's the Celtic board they're tasked by making this club as big as it can be, and see if that's going to be doing avenues that might not sit right with some elements of the support, then so be it. I think they will look at ways that they can maximise growth and potential. We can't sit every season and moan about us missing out on players because Wigan have got an extra 10 grand a week that we've no, and moan about it, Bhoycie. And with then no take any opportunity that comes our way to maximise what we're capable of doing. And Phil's spot on, right? You've got my season ticket £700 now, right? And I think Phil's the same, right? Which isn't a lot of money, but it's a big chunk of money. But you can double that if you're going to be adding 14 Champions League style matches on top of that. But it could be a compromise, as you say. They might keep it at almost steady rate if they can subsidise it by giving you cheap tickets for the Inverness Callies and the Hearts games, etc. So the everyday fan is going to get priced out to a certain extent. But see, with the extra money the club's got coming in, they might subsidise that for a couple of seasons. This is just pie in the sky stuff I'm talking about just now. Nobody's saying it's going to happen, but it's been brought up, so we'll discuss it. I think if we're going to be the club that we have got the potential to be, we can't keep on shopping in the Liddles section. We have to go to the Waitrose, Bhoycie. We've got the potential, I feel, to be a power in Europe. The only thing stopping Celtic from being the club that it should be, Rangers too, is the league we play in. There's nothing that the fan base, the pool, the intrigue of the two clubs, the history. Rangers have only got 11 years of it, but we've got a bit more than that. But just everything about us, it just screams what football is all about. And I think there's a desire amongst in the corridors in the European leagues to see a Celtic playing at this level. I really do. I don't think they just come to Celtic Park and take photographs and put it on their bucket list because their partners in the back and saying, "Oh, good luck for trying." They know Celtic is a name in Europe. They've got a history. They've got a lot of. They've got a fairy tale story behind them, as Bill McNeil says. And if Celtic are going to get to the level that we all agree that they should be, then we're going to have to put some of their principles aside and just go on with it. If that means selling ourselves a wee bit to American TV and promoting all these brands that we're not comfortable with, so be it. But what's I say here? For the comment.
Both myself and Russell are controlling the comments, so don't blame just me. Blame him as well.
Monty, I've noticed it.
I don't even know how to bring up comments, Monty.
Oh, what?
Monty,
it's a stitch-up job.
I've met Monty.
I think Phil does morph into Paul John Dykes sometimes, but I'm not going to go there.
Oh,
listen,
God. This is a character assault here.
Listen, mate, you're not bad. We had 4 Australian fucking rockets this the show the other day there. Paul John Dykes is actually alright compared to the fannies. I mean, cunts that are sorry.
Oh, that's that.
That's the ad revenue away. Cretins that have got 45 subscribers telling us that we're Muppets, you know what I mean? I mean, come on. Listen to some of the part that comes out of that. Sorry, I know you said your piece on it, Bhoycie, but some of the part that comes out of that show is just unbelievable.
I've never heard it. I've
Oh,
never heard of it.
I listened to it.
Really,
I listened
really
to it
engaged.
in people with double barrel names like Ja Rule or something, whatever he calls himself. I don't know, but it's just a mess. Anyway, let's go to Europe.
Let's go to
I'm
Europe.
all in. I'm all in.
Class.
I
I'm not
think
going to Australia, but
there was a very good point that came in, Phil, and it was Graham Tyrrell.
Yes, Tyrrell.
Yes, and he's bought a Bhoycie Bus shirt as well, by the way, may I add. Not why I'm bringing his comment up, because I actually like this. He thinks it'd be a good idea, and this is what I was kind of getting to a minute ago. Combining the domestic benefits, where I think you could have an affordable domestic season ticket holder. I think that would become, the atmosphere's better at the domestic games, isn't it? You can hear it. It'll turn into like what going to an away day is like now. You know, they always say, oh, it's live at an away game. That could become your 60,000 at Celtic Park being like that. Do you know what I mean? It just becomes the naughty one. And he's thinking as well, though, from the footballing perspective, it would let us blood more youngsters in the domestic league too, because obviously the standard of player we're going to have around the club is going to be higher. The youth setup's going to be far better. The players coming through are going to be better players. He's like that. We'll be beating Scottish opposition 10-0 every week if we had that higher level of player. So there'll be an opportunity to blood the youngsters in that, have your key players for this European competition, which, if it were to be a success, remember, the greed will kick in and it won't be 14 games. It'll be fucking 24 games within a couple of years. Do you know what I mean? And I think, whilst morally, yeah, I do get the romance and all that stuff, right? I really do. But I just think I think football itself is kind of moved so far on that we're going to end up left behind. And I don't want that. And I actually think when you look at the last 2 decades, there's many reasons I've given for Celtic being the main catalyst in their own demise in Europe. I think, it's fair. But to flip it, I also think they kind of gave up a wee bit as well when they started seeing some of the money being sort of, bandied about, and they've went, fuck. I mean, even if we do push the boat out here, we're still going to be spending a 10th, a 20th of what, some bang average Champions League sides are spending right now. And, it's moved on. That's only going to keep growing, keep getting bigger. You can't expect Ange Postecoglou to keep finding leagues like the J League and bringing over 6-7 players from that in the space of 18 months and hoping that that's going to make an assault in the Champions League next year against teams that are spending 100 million a position now. Do you know what I mean? 50 million backup right backs and stuff you see in that competition. There needs to be some sort of, as I said at the top of the show, a leveler, Phil. And I think what they're doing with the Super League is the clubs are trying to come up with a leveler to the obscene spending by the English clubs, and to stem, by the way, as well, the ever-increasing clubs like Barcelona's debts, because they're quite clearly spending way beyond their means. Juventus, it looks like, to afford to keep up with the Joneses, as it were, looks like they were doing some sort of dodgy Italian form of EBT and stuff like that. And by the way, they won't be alone. They won't be alone. There'll be plenty of others out there that are going, how the fuck do we keep up? How do we get in there? How do we become regulars in the last 4 of the Champions League, when often we've seen, the semi-finals having 2-3 English teams and stuff like that, and you look at them and their reputation, their body of work as a club and their history, their tradition, and you go, oh, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, no way are they. And I don't want it to be, by the way, either an exclusive members club where only clubs that have won the European Cup should ever be there and stuff. I don't mean it like that. I think football's evolving all the time and there's room for everyone at the party. But I think when you see just one league really benefiting from obscene TV deals, not actually Gates, for example, not even a fan base being bigger than Aberdeen's, being bigger than Hearts. You know what I mean? I'm like, that doesn't sit right with me, because that's where the difference is, and we've got to look at it. If Barcelona's and Milan's right, are looking at it thinking it's an unfair playing field and it's an unlevel playing field, what are we looking at it as then? What playing field are we looking at in comparison? Do you know what I mean?
No, it's the point though for Graham is that's something that did cross my mind earlier on. We were talking about it, and I'm like, if it is a case of this is alongside the domestic league, and at the moment in our current setup, we've already got certain voices from across the city saying that we're lucky and we spend loads of money and all that. Imagine what it would be like if we did get riches from this European Super League. That's true. We would end up tanking teams about 10-0 every single week, probably even more. The 10 that you keep talking about, you say one day we're going to hit 10 under Ange. Well, we definitely would with that money. It would be a definitely a way to improve the bringing through youngsters, because that's something we've talked about loads of times on here. How do we get a better youth setup? How do we utilise them more? In this fantasy world that we're talking about, if that was a scenario that was to come up, that might be a way. Then our youth setup would improve to the point where you could trust them to probably play all the domestic games, or majority of them, and they'd probably still win the league anyway because of the investment going into it. But again, there's still the teams outside the Glasgow 2 are still going to be like, oh, this is still unfair, because I'd imagine they would still be getting absolute tuppence, even if we did field weaker sides. But again, it's all just, as Mark said earlier on, it's all just hypothetical stuff just now. We're just saying that if it happened in this scenario and that. But yeah, it would have to be one of these things in a few weeks. Well, whenever they come back with their next proposal, a more conclusive idea of what it is they want to put together. Because right now, I've only just seen bullet points, just exactly how this would work. So I'm still in the dark if it means fully going and playing in it like all the time, or would it be alongside your domestic league? These are all things that would need to be, fleshed out. But it's still a good long time down the pipeline. And as we said earlier on, obviously the Champions League format's changing in just a couple of years. It would be crazy for this to suddenly sprout up before that even happens. So I think it would be probably closer to the end of the decade, I think, before, if it was ever going to happen, it would be a good wee bit down the line.
Yes, I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying there. I mean, what I'm going to leave it on, I've asked in the comments if you want to bring up something completely different now, we'll move on. That'd be good. So get your comments in now. But what I would leave it on, my final note on it would be, if the Super League conversation does pick up again or crops up again, I think let's get away from the narrative that it's rearing its ugly head and things like that. And I think maybe just look at it objectively, openly, weigh up the pros and cons. If you're against it, then sound. I respect anyone's opinion to do that. But I think being against something you don't know what actually entails and its reasons for forming or potentially forming, or its reasons for suggestion, whilst you're not aware of all that detail, I think you're falling in the trap that I would say down south want you to fall in. And that would be that it's rearing its ugly head and it's bad for the game and it's clubs being unfair and all this nonsense. I would just look at it. You were born with 2 eyes, 2 ears. Use them when it comes to this. And if you want to get a sniff too. But we will move on.
Trying podcast your own Bhoycie.
I wasn't meaning it like that. Jeez. Didn't make a big deal out of that, right? Okay, trebles, let's go. Will Mick's luck run out on the 26th? Most of his wins have been scruffy and lucky. Mark, me and you have had good debate on that in the group chat. I've told you up to gate, I think I'd watched his first 6 games in charge of Rangers, and I was very much of the camp. I ain't been impressed with what I've seen, but I've been impressed with the results. But what I've seen hasn't been so good. Since then, there was a display of hearts that was apparently brilliant. I was too busy watching the Celtic. But that aside, it sounded like it was kind of back to the scruffy win, albeit a win again at the weekend. We cannot take that away. I mean, will the luck come to an end, or will the good form, whatever way you want to view it, will that come to an end on the 26th against Celtic?
I think what will come to an end is the fact that they're playing opposition that just can't match them. Celtic are going to be a level of opposition that they haven't faced yet. Now, I know we're at Ibrox, but that was a do-or-die match, which they died in for the first time. But the perception was that they gave us a bloody nose that day, when the reality was Celtic put one hand in the title. I mean, so I think the 26th, I think it will be a test for Celtic as well. And by that, I mean, as our... The season's closing in for Celtic, you know what I mean? And they can see the end in sight. And I think the treble is a reality for us. And I think they've been a bit hurty for last year. I think that'll be a real bone of contention inside the dressing room, that they didn't get past that line. And especially the way it being Rangers that beat them. So that'll give the Celtic players who are still there a wee bit of grit between the teeth, you know what I mean? I think coming to 26 will be we'll be ready for it, Bhoycie. Don't forget we're playing 13 men. Don't ever forget that. And luck can play a part. I think Celtic gets in his favourites. Celtic is in with a better squad, better manager, better sub bench, you name it. They've got a lot more to lose than what Celtic have, because they've got a wee bit of, they're hitting a gallop just now, so to speak, in their own minds, right? So for us to put the buffers on that straight away, that would dent their confidence. Trevor's a what is you're saying is
The mole's busted.
the mold busted. I know the mold for the South Pole. I mean, do you know something? I'm convinced that mold speaks to him, because he goes into a press conference. I'm convinced the two of them are debating what to say. And it's like me. I think to myself, am I going to turn around and call somebody a name that's going to get the ad revenue? Money stopped. I say no, but something inside me just says, fuck it, say it. And I think that Mo is the same with him. I mean, some of the things that hits out where there must be like a conflict, there must be a wee debate in his brain not to say it. He just, the Mo wins every time. No, boys, I think they're going to come up against a team that were real hunger to put to bed last April's result at Hampden. I think the Celtic players will be still feeling sore for that one, you know what I mean? Because it pushed them on a bit, and the 26th, I think Celtic will get the opportunity to lay a marker for next season as well. Because right now the narrative is he's took it away 9 points, and it's still 9 points, and they're seeing that as some sort of moral victory against us, or some sort of, you know, that they've managed to keep up with. I mean, you even get the press hinting out the stories that Rangers are fighting Celtic pound for pound, when the reality is Celtic have actually increased the gap by like 9 goals.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think the 26th February might just be a wee reality call for some of them, including the mole for the South Pole. Mate. I somebody called him Michael Mole the other day. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's good as well. That is good. Phil McGinley, the 26th. It's definitely now. You know, it's there. It's on the horizon. I think I tend to agree with a lot of what Mark said there. I think the Celtic side gets the bit between the teeth, if you like, at this time of year anyway. I think this is our Ange trait. And I think we've seen performance levels just go up the past few weeks for Celtic, almost like let's get the foot down. We're not gonna allow ourselves to get into a situation where we'll win where we win this league title, but you know the gap closed and it became a nervy affair. I think we want to put the foot down and motor down, and I see that continuing up to the 26th in terms of the league. Then we get to the cup final, and I just think undeniably, when we look at last season's Hampden thing, if there were to be a bit of a low point, a sore point for that Celtic team, and what was a fantastic second half of the season last year, I think we need to be honest. And I think I would say, you know, the reason this game means a wee bit more to us isn't because, as the point was sort of drawn up, and as I've actually suggested as well at times, to be totally honest, because Mickey Beale's got them, you know, has came in and been a wee bit loud down a megaphone and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And talked about us loads and all these nonsense. I think there's a wee bit more from our own personal pride, Phil, like Mark's talking about there, where Celtic will go, wait, how did we not win then? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that wrong needs corrected. Simple as that. And as Mr. Brady said in Delbert Grady, I should say not Mr. Brady, Delbert Grady said in The Shining, I corrected them, sir. And I think we will correct them on the 26th of February.
Well, first things first, it being a cup game, I always go in with the approach as a cup game. So, you know, anything can happen. Obviously, the original point said about Mickey Beale's luck running out. This thing with being the cup final has to be a winner on the day. As Matt pointed out, the Ibrox thing, we had what seemed to be a bad day that day, and they still couldn't beat us. But it's interesting, Russell, that you just said there a few moments ago that you feel that the performances for us have been going up recently. I think we've been playing a bit within ourselves, but there's a reason behind it. I don't think we've been playing bad, But I think we're in a mode right now where it's like, get the game won and just play it out because we're conserving for something. We're waiting for the big stuff to come along, and this game will be the big stuff, essentially. Because you look at the games recently, Dundee United at Tannadice.
Big stuff.
All that big stuff. Once we got 2-0 up against Dundee United at Tannadice, the game just petered out after that. It's like, we've won the game, we'll just control it. Livingston recently, the midweek game, 3-0 at half-time. And I sit down in the bottom end of the Jock Stein stand, and it does feel like at times the second half at Celtic Park, you barely see a goal down that end because we just are in a mode where we get the job done as quickly as possible in the game, and then it just peters out in the second half. St Johnstone there, where we got 2-0 up. St Johnstone got a goal back right away. Then we went up the park and made it 3 not long after. And it was 3-1 till the 90th minute. So I do feel like we're in a mode where Ange has got like, right, get the game won. Don't do anything stupid. Don't take any risks. Don't get any big injuries. Just control the game. Don't need to go out and beat teams 7-0 or whatever. You know, we've won the game. Because I think he's saving it for when the big prizes are on the line. And I'm hoping when it comes to February 26th, it's going to be one of those big performances. Because I think Steve-O said it when he was on the show a few weeks ago about if we don't beat them by a big score, you know, they're going to come away with, if they win, obviously, they're going to be like, oh, you know, that's it. He's got Ange's number. If it's just a narrow victory for Celtic, they'll still try and spin it as a positive. Oh, he's closing the gap. He's getting closer. Celtic have to go out and really put a marker down here. We've got like 3 goals at least in it. And then we might start to get some credit. Because right now, it's all just bravado and gusto from, oh, Mickey Beale, what a great manager. Oh, he's done this. As Mark said, it's embarrassing. The 9-point gap, it's still a 9-point gap. But he's still getting spun as some kind of, oh, what a great manager he is and stuff. And it's like, honestly, so we need to be putting a marker down on February 26th. And I just feel like recent performances are telling me we're waiting for something to come along here, and then we're going to go to town, and hopefully that is it.
Well, I hear what you're saying there. I think as well, when it comes to that record that he's got so far, you've got to also take into consideration the fact he had one acid test, and the acid test was for the comfort of their own home, and it was against us, and he couldn't get the job done. And that is the result.
We had dodgy penalty, Bhoycie.
Aye, and the results. And by the way, remember the other results. They're the results you're employed to be Rangers manager to win. The other ones, they're there to be taken care of. It's then the big ones. And he's had one test so far against a team that I think was choked up with the flu of some sort, and it didn't work out. Love this question coming in, though, Matt, for Paul Dyatt. And honestly, you try to count in your fingers what the year was pretty funny.
2019, I think it was.
Glasgow Derby final.
Big Julian scored, remember? He scored that goal. It was 14 yards onside. And they tried to say it was offside.
Aye.
Remember?
And it's like, it's funny because in that period of time, we have drawn them in semi-finals and things quite often. You know, it felt like maybe, you know, when it got to the final the last time round, was it because they felt there was a manager in charge who was maybe peaking a wee bit under his, you know, in charge of his team, and they thought, this time we'll put them to the test. Is that the case again, where the warm ball, they've decided to wait for the final this time and pull it out because they're believing all the spiel? Who knows? It'll be very interesting. But in terms of it being a final against them, it's something to look forward to, Mark. League Cup final, that I might be quite vocal about ranking number 4th in my priority list. A final against them at Hampden's sign that, you know, you do start counting down the days on, Mark. You know what I mean?
Oh, mate, I mean, even they're always the same, where it's Michael, the Mole, or Cheryl Cole, it doesn't matter who they hire, there's always going to be the next big thing for them. Now, see, I know you're saying it's kind of like the 4th kind of trophy for you, but see, 259 on that match day, boy, so it'll be like European Cup final to you. You will want to win that big time. And I think that I always stand by the thing the Celtic manager says that the most important match is the next match, and I'm always the same. In the moment, I'm always hyped up. That's why I'm so nervous and so moany about the football, is because I'm so hyped up and scared to lose a match. And see that match, I think there's more to it than just a trophy. I think Celtic are going to lay down markers in this match, and I think they're needing it. I think they're needing a wee bit of reality, and I think Celtic are going to dish it up to them, and it's best served cold. Quite honestly, let them stew on it for a while and then hit them hard. Now, come the day of the match, I think there might be a few. This is something that's not come up yet. I think every time we play a big match against them, there's always a wee surprise in the starting lineup. And before we end this conversation, I would like to know what you think the surprise might be, because there's always one. Every time we play a big match against that mob, there's somebody always flung in there who we're not expecting. Even just the last match, it might have been through injury, but with James Forrest flung in there.
James Forrest was in, that's right.
And there's always seemed to be a wee surprise, and I think we're going to see another one come this match in the 26th, and I'm just trying to rack my brain who it could be. I mean, I don't think it'd be a surprise for anybody that Aaron Moy plays. I mean, he should play, but have we got the potential to get in that match and see a Matt O'Reilly play? I mean, is this going to happen? I don't know, but
a curveball is likely, though.
Curveball, boys. I mean, Lennon was famous for it. Lennon was very famous for it. Sometimes you'd be sitting biting your nails, just waiting for him to give his team lines. And just first before we carry on, hi to David, my butcher. Thanks for my message, mate. I'm glad you enjoyed your wee snack.
Is that what you said? The butcher's order, is that right?
No, well, I sent an email and I asked for 2 kilo of arrogant rather than 2 kilo of stroganoff, but my eyes are terrible, mate. I'm surprised I can even type, honest to God. I don't know how I get through Judgment Day reading the messages. I really, really don't. I always surprise myself.
Amazing. Well, we look forward to the cup final very much. I mean, I think it will be good fun. I'm just having a wee look through the comments, see what everyone else is saying to it. If you've got a point that you want us to bring up on the Thursday night forum, by all means do so. We usually go over the hour mark, do we not, boys, on a Thursday? Do we go over the hour mark? Aye.
I'm all right, mate.
You're all right? No past your bedtime or that, no?
Aye, mate, but I've got really great glasses yet. I've got the eyes that are open, so if you just see me looking straight at the camera and no moving, I've probably fell into stage 2 of sleep paralysis.
This has been bad.
Weird night. I mean, I got nearly half the water.
You need to get on the Sandy Miggs, mate. I'm telling you, the Sandy Miggs, the biggest bottles of beer in Europe.
We go to San Miguel.
St. Miguel's, mate. The biggest bottles of beer in the two.
Oh, I've no doubt, mate. I thought you were carrying a fire extinguisher when I seen you in the shops earlier on. Anyway.
Well, there was something I was going to spoke about. I can't spoke right. What was I going to say? I had one, man. I had a talking point that was going to be right good. I was thinking about it during the comments coming in. But let's go for Polymorphous. He comes in saying he's interested to know, Phil, if he's caught Ivata's comments comparing himself to Cal Mack, being humble or downplaying himself too much.
Oh, I didn't know about the comments at all. That's interesting. I mean, if you're going to compare yourself to anybody in the Celtic team, I think Callum McGregor's a good place to start. Role model, professional, and Mr. Consistent over the years. So, is he as good as him? Remains to be seen, because he's another one that we still haven't seen enough of yet. Just the occasional appearance here and there, but that'll come with time. I think some of these signings, the view is to use this half of the season to sort of get them ready for starting next season. Well, I mean, that could be what Mark was asking earlier on as well about a curveball. That would be a curveball, given how so far he's only had a few substitute appearances, and I think he started against Morton in the Cup. But again, who would you even drop? Well, he's came in with the pedigree, obviously, with the old Japanese League Player of the Year.
Yep.
So I mean, obviously, I trust Ange's judgment. He's got to be a good player. It's an interesting one to say he compare himself to Cal McGregor. I had not generally seen those comments, but I guess we can't really judge it at the moment because we haven't seen enough of him.
Phil, they've been picked up very differently in the old on the old bus. The comments, Alan Woods thinks he was almost calling himself shite. Brian Warrior thinks he's just stating the obvious. You know what I mean? Cal Mack operates on another level.
Yeah.
And then there was another one I think I'd seen about it. So Kimchi Strider, just takes any stride.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Does he care about the comments from Ivata? I mean, I think one of the things, Mark, that we know. I promised I wouldn't say his name. But one of the things we noticed last season with Giakoumakis, right, was the bravado that he showed. You know, we won the league because we're the best team in the country. I think it was 2 points in it, or 3 points in it at the time. And I thought, all right, okay, that's new, but I kind of like it. He's just telling his own truth. And that's all we can do in life. If you tell your own truth, I think sometimes with a lot of the interviews you get, and probably in the case of Ivatas, it's a lot of it's media trained, generic nonsense, and he's just paying a compliment to the club captain and showing that he's really humble and showing he's done his homework on Celtic and all that stuff. And I don't read too much into what the modern day sort of normal professional, not the maverick professional, the normal day pro. I think all their comments or to the media in particular tend to be pretty contrived and almost to the point where they kind of knew what question was going to be put to them, and the answer has kind of already been like under their nose. Do you know what I mean? Written for them by some PR guru. Do you know what I mean?
I think they get a lot of media training when it comes to playing for Celtic. They get taught what to say, what not to say. It's quite vanilla. I think the word is used, and when we get somebody who's open to answering questions in their own way, like Giakoumakis, I think Arthur Johnson, he just typifies that person who's been media trained. I mean, he can answer any question without stuttering, without even blinking, and I think sometimes it dilutes their opinion. Giakoumakis is probably just one of the guys who just says what he wants to say. And to be honest, I found it a bit bold last season. See as much as I liked it, boys, I found it a bit bold because I remember Samaras did it back in the day, and he came out and said, "Oh, the title's ours," and we ended up losing it, if you remember right. And it just gives them something to. They do it every week, they do it every season, but just give them something to post as a wee comeback when they win it. But to be quite honest with you, I'm all for it. I think it shows confidence within the camp, as long as it's not done too early or made in kind of like in a not an arrogant way, but in a unsavoury way. You know what I mean? I think they've got to respect the opposition, even with 9 points clear. You still got to respect them and represent the club, the size of Celtic, the right way. But what Giakoumakis showed was the belief within the camp itself was, do you know what? And I think Ange said it retrospectively. He said, at the end of the season, we did the end of the season review. He said, when we won that match, there was no way we were going to lose that league. And I think he was telling the players that. And I think every one of the players. And I said before, I think he get in Ralston seed and Taylor seed and said, you two are better players than what you think they were. You think these are. And they believed it. And if you get players buying into what the manager's saying, no wonder the players thought the league was over when we went 1 point clear last season, because in their minds, Ange just set the path out, and all he had to do was walk it.
That's a great way of putting it, Mark. I like that. Good use of words.
And he absolutely
there.
broke Ryan Jack with that. I spoke about last night. That was the thing that set him off, made him stare at his shoes the entire
He
press
always
conference.
looks like he's about to start greeting, though. See, to be honest with you, he always looks like he's about to start crying every time the camera's in.
Yeah, with Jack Frost. I don't understand. See, in that mob, we've got so many heroes that do nothing. I mean, they've got that Lundstrom who stared at a 15-year-old ball boy and in a match that Celtic won, leaving the stadium, and they've got him as this kind of hard man hero, like Judge Dredd, you know, walking about like that, and he's a fucking dumpling. He's a pure dumpling, mate. And honestly, the first hard man to get near him, he's gone flying, and so is this Joey Barton character they've got in the new Cantwell. Somebody's going to fling him up in the air that high. He's not going to land in the same country, and he's going to get it. He's going to get it, and I hope it's somebody like Adam Moy. I really do. But
let's talk about Adam Moy. Let's talk about Adam Moy, because Stubbsy's horse says, "Will Moy ever have his own talk show?" Now, you know what I did say earlier about exclusive, Stubbsy. You must have seen the memo I sent the troops earlier. You know, Aaron Moy will have his own talk show on the Bhoycie Bus. Give it time.
I love that. I mean, what would you call it? I mean, you'd have to call it like.
He's definitely got the media training, though.
No.
I don't think he'd be asked. He said he's shy. He said he gets shy when he hears songs.
He wants to be anywhere else other than talking to the media at the end of a game. But he keeps winning man of the match, so it's like, well, you've got to do it, sadly.
What about like, see, when you join a team, do you not need to do like an initiation thing? What the fuck was this? Imagine him singing.
He probably done that, Bhoycie, the main one. Get me out of this cardboard box, whatever it is. And I couldn't imagine him getting up and singing like a 50 Cent song or something. I just couldn't imagine.
I don't think he'll be doing like any sort of Detroit rap or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I don't even know if
I would draw a picture. You know what I mean? With a game of Hangman or something. He's not done anything invigorating, you know what I mean? There's no way. But you know something? I think that quite adds to his charm. You know something?
I know what you mean.
I would love to walk into the dressing room and be like this pure clown character, and all the players laughing, going, "You've done a some job on the media. They hate talking to you because you give them nothing." He's probably some character in the dressing room who goes out there and does it on purpose. No,
just messing with them.
Yeah, I would love that to be the case. I would love it to be the case where he's going to say to the players, "Look, do you know what? I'm going to go out there and say nothing. They're going to think I'm boring." And really, he's in there with like tying like mackerel to the players' suit bags and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? My pure Gaza character. You know what I mean? I love it to be like a kind of yin and yang kind of guy.
He's just trolling them.
Absolutely. I mean, there is something though. There is something to be, I think, kind of applauded about the fact that he's not in it for, get me in front of the camera. I can't wait for all that stuff, and I can't wait to tell you it's just another 3 points. It's not about me. It's about the team. He's like up there going, honestly, mate.
So I would say,
nobody cares.
Somebody said to me, Mark, you've just scored a goal for Celtic. How does it feel? I'd say, well, to be quite honest with you, it's all about me just now. I've just scored the best goal. Because I've been 4-year-old, I've dreamt about that every day, and every night in my bed when I score for Celtic. I don't care that we won 4-0 and mine was that's all about me today, and I want it to be about me because it was my.
What about another baldy player for Celtic? Scott Brown, Phil. I know these league form. He began with a lot of draws at Fleetwood, and I think there was still a lot of hope that if they converted the draws to wins, they'll be in the playoff mix, and I think it's kind of went the other way.
Okay.
And I think they're now sitting about 16th in the league, 17th in the league. Someone will correct me in the comments anyway, so I'll just make it up as we go right now. But he did get them into is it the 5th round now, the FA Cup?
That'll be the 5th round, so the last 16. Yep.
And a win against Sheffield Wednesday, for me, they're the sort of team that I go when Bournemouth's and that are sorry, Bournemouth tonight. I apologise, but get it right round you.
Right.
Because I look at teams like Sheffield Wednesday and I go, they just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just think, a mobbed Hillsborough at home to Newcastle. See if that was on a Super Sunday, I feel more inclined to watch that than I do. I don't know who's even in the Premier League group. Like, what would it be like? Watford against, in fact, Watford are probably not in it. But do you know what I mean? Like Bournemouth against
Bournemouth.
Against
Southampton. There's a team that's doing the other ball.
Do you know what?
There you go.
But you know what I mean? I just think like Sheffield Wednesday, the big team, but knocking them out definitely, I think, was a shot in the arm for Bruni. Bruni's one of those guys that I respect massively because he takes things on necessarily. I think since his Celtic career was coming to an end, he probably stuck it out a couple of times in his career at Celtic, where the odds were stacked against him, and it probably would have been an easier life to go. Bruni, for example, remember about 2 years into the Rodgers era, and he could have went to Australia.
I remember that, yeah.
Remember that? He was close, very close. And it was like, mate, you've done more than enough. I remember we had the Bhoycie Bus at that time, guys, who was fucking hot in his heels for a place in that team. He was when he Scott Brown. But remember, Bruni at that point, that was the easy choice, was to go to Australia, have your last few years in the sun, be the best player in the league. Sorry, Ange, it would have been, right? And I think then when he decided, now I'm going to go again at Celtic, I thought, he makes football calls, right? And he does it because he's got the courage of his convictions with things. When he went to Aberdeen, he went there as still a player, but as well as combining that with coaching, and it's like, fucking, that's quite a lot to take on. He ends up captain there. You're like, captain, coach, legend. But you know what I mean? I think the captain, coach, and playing at a team, and bear in mind, you've been at Celtic for, 12 years by that point? It is, it's a risky. There's a lot more jeopardy in doing that than there was just retiring at the end of Celtic and going and being a manager outright. Then he goes to Fleetwood, where his knowledge of League One can't be great. Do you know what I mean? I just think again it was a ballsy move, and I think everything he does right now we just expect him to win. So we don't see him doing particularly well at Fleetwood. I think the optics go, he's a shite manager, by the way. He's fucking shite. It's his first ever job. He's only 8 months into it. But I think he definitely, what I like about him is he backs himself and he puts himself in positions that are very much quite risky. And what, you see in football right now is and in sport in general, look at boxing, everyone plays it safe. You don't fight the best fighters, right? Because you might get beat. Ain't that supposed to happen? But I look at management. You don't go to certain leagues or you don't take certain jobs as your first job because the average sort of shelf life in a managerial position in League One's probably 18 months to 24 months. Do you know what I mean? And yet here he finds himself at Fleetwood and absolutely outstanding. What he's done obviously midweek against Sheffield Wednesday, and I really hope he kicks on. And if I don't know what his chances are of making the playoffs, but if he can finish the season strongly, it could change the narrative very quickly on Bruni, the manager, Phil.
Well, it turns out after beating Sheffield Wednesday, they've now got Burnley in the next round at Toughmoor. Burnley are top of the championship. So what are Burnley's priorities? Getting promoted or going to the next round of the FA Cup? There could be a chance, by the way, that they could go to Toughmoor, maybe force a replay, get them back to their own ground and maybe get past them as well. Vincent Kompany's the manager of Burnley. The last time I looked at the championship team, they're up near the top. So their priorities are going to be more. It's the same way teams in the Premier League are down near the bottom. They don't really care about the cups. Going for a cup run, they'll be like, I want to stay in the league. So for teams at the top end of the championship, their priority will be more, we want to get back up to the Premier League. So that's not a bad draw from Fleetwood's point of view. This is the furthest they've ever went. They've got nothing to lose. It's a cup game. It's what you would say was old free hit because nobody really be expecting one. But Burnley might not prioritise that game and they could get caught out here. So I hope he does. It'd be good to see him get through to if he gets through to the 6th round, that would be the quarterfinals, the last 8. That's because it's round of 16, the 5th round. So he's not too far away from getting them to the last 8. And I say Burnley's not the worst draw they could have got. But it would be
because it's a total scalp as well, Phil, isn't it?
It would be, aye. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Burnley, compared to Fleetwood in terms of like any pedigree in English football, Burnley have done some stuff in English football in terms of winning cups, and even though it was many, many, many moons ago. But Fleetwood Town, nothing at all in their resume. So this could be a big moment for them. And if they were to get down to the last 8 and say they get a home game with one of the real big boys, a real money spinner, I'd be well tuning into that. That'd be one of those box office games. Got to watch it. I know it's weird with the hair.
It's Man United or something like that at home. Suddenly he's just back out doing the death stare, man. Oh, I would love it. Bring those days back. But Mark, it's quite easy for the narrative to change on guys. This is a club legend, someone who is an absolute icon as a leader for Celtic. And it's so quick that people go, Bruni doing shite at Fleetwood, eh? Shite manager. It's like, wow, you turn quite quick on your own. I think sometimes I see quite a lot of that on Twitter, like folk going, he's shite. You'll never see him at Celtic now. And it's like, easy days. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you go to Fleetwood when you're, determined to cut yourself out to be the next Celtic boss. You could have sat there in the backroom staff at Celtic, done a John Kennedy, and got 10 games and made an absolute royal James Hunt it. Do you know what I mean? James Hunt it. Hear that, Mark? I said the James Hunt it. You get that? You get that rhyming song there, big boy?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't forget, St Mirren sacked Alex Ferguson, mate. So managers, they start off pretty bad sometimes. I actually think he broke a record for Fleetwood Town at the beginning of the season. I think he might have won so many games unbeaten and it broke one of their records. I remember reading that. So he's not been a complete disaster. As you say, turn a few draws into wins and he got up the table very quickly. And their leagues are always dead tight in England. I mean, 5 points can move you up 6 places. That's how tight it is. But no, I think Scott Brown, he's the kind of guy I think he will get a career in football after his playing days. I think he's been around too many good managers, you know what I mean? He's played under Gordon Strachan. I mean, surely his advice is good. He's played under Brendan Rodgers. He's been Scotland captain, you know what I mean? The guy always got a depth of knowledge there. And don't forget, I mentioned this the other day in the group chat, he was training to be a coach under Roy Dyler. So back to 2014, he was taking the youth team, I think it was, while he was still playing at Celtic. So he's 8-9 years into his coaching career as such already, and he's in his late 30s. So don't forget, the guy's going to have, he has got to cut his teeth at Fleetwood Town. We all know that, as somebody just mentioned, but he's going to have a depth of knowledge beyond his years. The guy's not even hit 40 yet, and he's got his own first. He's got his first job in England, which is notoriously hard to bulge yourself up in.
Spot on.
Right.
Brilliant point, Martin. See, the one thing about Bruni as well, see, when it comes to this, being up against it, if you like, this is a guy that regenerated himself twice at Celtic, Phil. I've spoke to you about this before. You know, under Lenny, when you look at that Barcelona game, was he not on the bench? I'm pretty sure he was. And he was sort of...
I think Samaras was captain that night, so Bruno wasn't he playing?
He injured, I'm sure.
Was he on the bench? I think he was on the bench. I think at times even under Lenny had to find that, right, I think you're going to sit. I think the headless chicken roll you've done for the last 4 or 5 years was great at first. Fill iron brew before a game and all that. Remember, that was the patter. He had a can of iron brew before he played and stuff. And it's like, it all just seemed we found a role for him.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you had the kebab gate, Phil. Sitting outside. And that looked like a guy to me that he was lost interest. He'd lost that level of professionalism. Then he regenerates again under Rodgers. The famous meeting in London, we're going to build the team around you. And I think played 2 years there under Rodgers. His first 2 years, it was a joke how good he was, I felt. I thought that was his peak, in my opinion. And that was against all odds then. And then you look at the Scotland role, becoming captain there. This is a guy that when he's faced with adversity, seems to come out on top. I wouldn't be writing him off just yet.
No, I mean, I'm seeing obviously that they're 1-6 drawn 11, lost 11. But, it doesn't read too well, but it's just a lot of draws. So it's not like
the losses column has went up as well rapidly in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks.
It's one of the ones I need to see the league table in front of me, but Mark's right. It's one of the divisions down there are the type where you get 3 or 4 runs and it can take you from one side of the table to the other very, very quickly. They're usually quite the teams are quite bunched up. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I've seen a few people in the comments debating about, could he be a future manager and stuff like that. That's a long, long, long way off. But you've got to start somewhere at the end of the day. And fair play to them for going down there because they are tough leagues. We're talking about the English Championship and even the 2 leagues below it. They are bloody tough to get out of. They're so hard to predict every season. A team that's when we've got to the playoffs the season before didn't make it up might be down fighting relegation the next season in one of these divisions. It is a very tough. They're all very tough to get out of and so forth. So fair play to him for going down there and giving it a go. But yeah, well, hopefully it works out for him. As I said earlier on, he's on the cusp of maybe getting to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So again, that'd be a good money spinner for them. And I think if they stay up and have a half decent cup run, I think that would probably keep them in a job. But
definitely,
who knows?
Anyway, Phil, if you want to bring the kit back up, we will wind up the show at this point. Remember, all you have to do is send an email to crookedarm@ymail.com, or if you've got PayPal, you just make your £40 payment to that. It's optional, the postage and packaging, if you want to get the Bhoycie Bus Bumblebee shirt. It does go up to £45 next week, but right now it's £40 up till then. And the postage and packaging, I will cover it if you're not in a position you can pay that. It is an absolute belter. Mark Kearney, before you go, we need your judgment on the new Bhoycie Bus shirt.
That's a fucking belter. I've said it before. It reminds me of a mashup between the 2012 kit and the Bumblebee kit. It's just got that look about it. The design's really good. The wee bit of the bottom double doing, so we nod to the one of the first shows that I did actually. It was a double down show. But it's a great kit. I think you could probably see yourself wearing that. I mean, definitely. We're going to be getting one each, so we're going to get a chance to show it off. I think, don't forget, if you want to get one of these shirts, order before Sunday and you're going to get a $5 off it with the option to pay for posting and packaging, or no pay for it. That's a deal. You save yourself £8 there. So get in quickly, quick as you can. You might get one sooner than you think. The more people order, the faster these kits will come.
We can get it out. Definitely.
Aye. And don't forget, boys, don't be shy. Order a pie.
Wait till you hear this, mate. Wait till you hear this. You're going to love this. I've got a mad connection with pies, right? See, when the first 8 months of business I had the pub, and we will go after this, Mark. I know you're choking for your bed, right? See, the first like in the first couple of months of us opening a pub, remember I've just turned 22 years old. I should not have the keys to any boozer. This isn't me as a manager. This is now my business. I'm like, what? Right? I'm like, well, I don't want to do food in it because it's like a boozer. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, right, what can I do? So I bought a butcher's pie oven, right? That keeps the pies warm but doesn't just dry them out. Do you know what I mean? So if you were getting one, so I would go to the local butcher, buy 6 pies a day, and what did my sign say above it? Don't be shy, grab a pie.
There you go, mate.
So as soon as you said that, I was like, wait a minute. The connection with me and pies has been going on a lot longer than I thought, and that was the slogan.
That's the same advice I got off of Alex Salmon one day, but I never took him up on the offer. He's a bit
I was watching, by the way, last night. Remember I said to you, Phil, I was going to watch some old Only an Excuse for the Banter. I watched a few the other night, and one of his Alex Salmon ones were absolutely hilarious. But anyway, we're going off on tangents. If you want to buy the Bhoycie Bus shirt, it's crookedarm@ymail.com. That is the PayPal. You can pay the £40 straight to that. If you want to be kind enough to pay the postage yourself, it's optional. I'll cover it if not. It does help if you can, but listen, we are in trying times for everyone. We really appreciate anyone who wants to get the shirt. And what we'll do now, is end the show, and I hope you all have a very good evening. It has been great fun on the bus. A big thank you to Phil McGinley and, of course, the judge, Mark Kearney. Here's some Chris Sutton. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow with some Bustalgia and all that good stuff. See you.
Thanks.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.